Breaking news today. Chaos erupted outside a Los Angeles nightclub when a car plowed into a crowd, injuring dozens. Amid the turmoil, a bystander opened fire. This incident raises urgent questions about the surge in urban violence and the need for real accountability. What's driving this alarming trend?
Hello, and welcome to That News Show, where we discuss the latest facts, fakes, and hypocrisy as reported by the legacy media. Let's roll the tape.
CNN reports that at least 30 people were injured after a vehicle plowed into a crowd in Los Angeles, with the driver later shot by a bystander, according to police. This incident prompts a serious reflection on the state of our urban environments. How did Los Angeles, a city once synonymous with glamour, spiral into such chaos where a simple night out could end in tragedy? This situation go beyond the actions of a reckless driver or an instance of vigilante justice. It reflects a deeper malaise, a growing urban disorder, a decline in public trust, and political leaders who seem more focused on global issues than on safeguarding the well-being of their constituents. When leadership falters, it's no surprise that ordinary citizens feel compelled to act. Yet, predictably, the very elites responsible for these conditions are often the quickest to point fingers elsewhere. Why is that? Let's see what we can find out.
The driver of that vehicle was pulled out and a physical altercation ensued where the bystanders were physically assaulting him. During that altercation, somebody produced a firearm and shot that driver of the vehicle. The driver was transported to a local hospital in unknown condition. The shooter in this situation is still outstanding, and we consider him armed and dangerous.
And Fred, this is their priority right now, is to find that...
The recent incident outside a nightclub, where a car plowed through a crowd injuring 30 people, 7 critically, before the driver was violently assaulted and shot by a bystander, serves as a grim reminder of the deteriorating public safety in our major cities. This tragedy is not an isolated event, but a symptom of a deeper crisis affecting urban America, particularly in cities with progressive leadership more focused on virtue signaling than ensuring the safety of their citizens. When bystanders resort to taking justice into their own hands, it clearly indicates a profound mistrust in law enforcement and the judicial system. The fact that the shooter remains at large only exacerbates the prevailing sense of lawlessness. Such disorder arises when political leaders prioritize policing thought over crime, and essential resources are diverted from genuine public safety needs. The increase in violent incidents in areas with lenient crime policies, promoted by the previous Democrat administration and their city government allies, is no coincidence. These officials have spent years undermining the police, advocating for leniency, and ignoring the resulting consequences. Consequently, ordinary Americans are often left to protect themselves, sometimes feeling compelled to use firearms to neutralize threats, a harsh reality stemming from failed leadership and a disrespected justice system. While the current administration is making efforts to restore order and bolster law enforcement, the chaos left by the previous regime and their allies in places like Sacramento and City Hall is undeniable. It's crucial to prioritize the safety of our communities over globalist agendas or foreign entanglements. Americans deserve safe streets, free from the fear of being run over or caught in vigilante crossfires. The political elite may be shielded from this chaos, but everyday citizens bear the brunt. Only with genuine accountability and when local leaders prioritize the safety of their constituents over political ambitions, will we begin to see an end to these tragic and preventable incidents. The people of Los Angeles, and indeed all American cities, deserve better.
Like, it's a part of town that is generally deemed safe, that you wouldn't necessarily expect this kind of an altercation or a criminal activity to be happening, or for someone to pull out a gun outside of a...
What we are witnessing is the direct result of years of misguided priorities and lenient crime policies, leaving even the so-called safe neighborhoods vulnerable to chaos. The scene of a violent altercation outside a nightclub in a previously secure part of town signals a clear erosion of public order. This crisis extends beyond policing to encompass leadership and the broader cultural messages from those in power. City officials have long undermined law enforcement authority, burdening officers with excessive bureaucracy and prioritizing ideological agendas over practical crime solutions. The consequences are evident. Americans are exposed, and the expectation of basic state-provided security is no longer assured. This is not merely a theoretical debate about criminal justice reform, but a real-world consequence of treating the rule of law as optional. The partisan divide has deepened this crisis. While Republicans have advocated for policies that support police and prioritize the rights of law-abiding citizens, the previous Democrat administration promoted leniency and reduced policing, despite evidence that these policies endanger communities. Under President Trump, there's been a clear shift toward restoring order and supporting law enforcement, marking a significant change after years of policy neglect. Local leaders often respond to such incidents with promises of investigations and emergency funds, yet they fail to address the underlying issues. Their focus tends to be on optics and political damage control rather than on implementing lasting reforms to deter crime. Proposals like installing more barriers or increasing patrols are merely temporary solutions, not substitutes for a justice system that holds offenders accountable and ensures citizens feel safe in their neighborhoods. This incident should serve as a wake-up call. The American people demand real solutions that prioritize their safety and reject the failed policies of the past. As long as politicians prioritize global ambitions and ideological pursuits over the well-being of their constituents, these tragedies will continue. The path forward requires a return to common sense, enforce the law, support the police, and respect the rights of responsible citizens to protect themselves when the state falls short.
Mayor Karen Bass has been saying, earlier today that her heart goes out to Angelenos and all the victims impacted by this, and saying that there will be a full investigation into what happened. But we do have reporting at this point, Fred, that has basically discarded any connection to terrorism of this incident and also any further criminal intent.
CNN's coverage of the incident relies heavily on official statements and emotive soundbites from city leaders, yet it lacks the in-depth analysis viewers deserve. While the mayor's sympathetic remarks and promises of a thorough investigation are typical, the coverage fails to probe the underlying issues that led to this situation. The network quickly dismisses the possibility of terrorism or further criminal intent, overlooking broader public safety concerns and the pattern of violence in our urban centers. The reporting appears to accept the official narrative without delving into the driver's motives or the systemic failures that contributed to the chaos. Notably, it glosses over the fire department's retraction of initial reports about the driver losing consciousness, a detail that could significantly shift public perception of the event. This omission undermines trust and leaves the audience with unanswered questions. CNN predominantly features the perspectives of city officials and emergency responders, neglecting the voices of ordinary Angelenos who are directly impacted by the unsafe streets. This approach highlights the mayor's empathy and promises but fails to critically examine the policies contributing to this environment. The lack of diverse voices, particularly those questioning the city's crime and policing strategies, shows a bias towards establishment narratives. Also, the network could enhance its reporting by incorporating insights from independent criminologists, community leaders, or public safety experts. Such perspectives could shed light on the increasing frequency of these incidents. Instead, the coverage provides a sanitized view that overlooks local governance failures. Visually, CNN offers dramatic footage of emergency crews and the aftermath, which tends to sensationalize rather than inform. This focus on the spectacle rather than the root causes diverts attention from the substantive policy failures responsible for the tragedy. One of CNN's strengths is its quick dissemination of breaking details, such as the number of injuries and the sequence of events. This is undermined by a reluctance to challenge the status quo or hold city leadership accountable for conditions that perpetuate violence. The network's haste to rule out broader criminal motives without exploring alternative explanations or systemic issues does a disservice to viewers seeking complete answers. The coverage would benefit from more thorough fact-checking, a broader range of voices, and a readiness to confront the uncomfortable realities of progressive policies on crime and public safety. Until the media and political leaders are willing to address these issues candidly, the cycle of violence and blame will persist, leaving ordinary citizens to bear the consequences.
Correct. We did treat and transport the driver of that vehicle who had sustained injuries. You had reported what police officers had stated, that individual was pulled out of the vehicle, assaulted, and somebody pulled out a gun and that individual was shot.
The economic repercussions of the recent violent incident are palpable throughout East Hollywood, affecting local businesses and residents alike. With the Vermont venue closed indefinitely and neighboring businesses experiencing a 70% decrease in weekend foot traffic, the financial strain on workers and small business owners reliant on nightlife is profound. Such disruptions highlight the vulnerability of local economies to single events under current urban policies. For families, this means lost wages, fewer work hours, and increased concerns about safety, all of which erode consumer confidence and spending. When people feel unsafe, they tend to stay home, resulting in fewer restaurant bookings, rideshare trips, and retail purchases. This decline in economic activity stems directly from policy shortcomings that have allowed disorder to take root in what was once a low-crime area. The city's offer of emergency funds and promises of more patrols provide only a temporary fix. While $500,000 in state aid might help with some immediate expenses, it fails to tackle the root causes of such violence. Without meaningful structural changes, these measures are merely superficial. Even proposals like adding more barriers or increasing police patrols, while perhaps reassuring, do not rebuild the trust or stability needed for families and businesses to prosper. This situation underscores the consequences of misplaced priorities. City leaders have been preoccupied with ideological projects and global positioning at the expense of essential public safety and economic stability. The financial toll of recurring violence, lost business, rising insurance costs, and the need for trauma counseling is borne by ordinary citizens, not the insulated political class. Residents are forced to make tough decisions about spending, working, and socializing amid these uncertainties. The undermining of the rule of law not only compromises public safety, but also jeopardizes the entire economic ecosystem. This is a clear example of how inadequate leadership and lax enforcement can undermine the foundations of prosperity, leaving communities to suffer the consequences of decisions made by detached officials. The business community, workers, and families in East Hollywood deserve more than superficial gestures. They need to return to policies that emphasize safety, accountability, and economic opportunity, principles that have driven American growth and resilience. Until those in power refocus on these essentials, the cycle of disruption and decline will persist, with everyday citizens bearing the costs. And there you have it. The recent tragedy in Los Angeles is not just a heartbreaking event. It's indicative of a broader national issue where order and safety seem to be low priorities for our leaders. Under the previous administration, there was a heavy focus on global initiatives and symbolic gestures, often leaving American families to fend for themselves. Now, with President Trump at the helm, we're seeing a shift towards prioritizing the needs of Americans, defending our right to self-defense, and preventing chaos from becoming the norm. The political elite may try to distract and frighten us, but here's the truth. If they can't ensure our streets are safe, how can we trust them with anything else? We look forward to reading your comments. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. We will see you on the next one.